In a quiet village nestled between rolling hills, there lived an old wise man named Elias. Known for his calm demeanor and endless wisdom, Elias had lived a long, eventful life. People of all ages came to him with their struggles, eager to hear his insights. One day, a group of young men gathered in the shade of an ancient oak tree, arguing loudly over a trivial matter: who was stronger, who was smarter, and who could prove their point better. The argument grew so heated that they decided to seek Elias's wisdom. The young men approached his humble cottage, their voices loud and brimming with frustration. Elias sat outside, whittling a piece of wood, his eyes calm and observant as they explained the situation. "Master Elias," one of them said angrily, "we've been arguing for hours. I believe I'm right, and I know I can prove it. But they refuse to listen. How do I make them see that my point is correct?" Elias put down his carving and looked up with a small, knowing smile. "Sit down, my sons," he said. "Let me tell you a story." The young men exchanged glances, but they sat down quietly around Elias, curious to hear what the old man had to say. Elias began, "When I was a young man, just like you, I was hot-headed and full of pride. I always felt the need to argue, to prove that I was right, even over the smallest matters. One day when I was working in the fields, my neighbor came storming toward me. His face was red with anger, and he accused me of letting my cattle wander into his land and destroy his crops. I knew it wasn't true. My cattle were tied up the whole day, but my pride couldn't let the accusation go unanswered." Elias paused and smiled softly. "I spent the entire afternoon yelling, pointing fingers, and gathering witnesses to prove my innocence. I wanted to win. I needed him to admit he was wrong." By the time the sun set, we were both exhausted, and the village had gathered to watch the spectacle. In the end, my neighbor muttered a half-hearted apology. But do you know what I gained? Nothing. Not his respect, not my peace of mind, nothing but a headache and wasted time. The young men leaned in closer as Elias continued, his voice low but powerful. "Years later," Elias said, "I faced another similar situation. A man accused me of stealing wood from his land. This time I was older, wiser, and had learned a valuable lesson. Instead of arguing, I remained silent. I let him speak his mind, vent his frustrations, and call me every name he could think of. When he was done, I simply said, 'I am sorry you feel that way. If you need wood, you are welcome to take some from my land.' The man was stunned. He had expected a fight, but my silence and calm response disarmed him completely. That evening, he returned to my home ashamed of his words. He apologized, and from that day forward, we became good friends." Elias looked each young man in the eyes and said, "Silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it is the loudest answer of all. When you let go of the need to prove yourself, you gain something far greater: your peace, your dignity, and often the respect of others." The young men sat quietly, absorbing the old man's words. Elias spoke one last time. "Remember this, my sons. Not every battle needs to be fought. When you mature, you will realize that your silence can speak louder than words. Winning an argument may feed your ego for a moment, but choosing silence and understanding feeds your soul for a lifetime. Learn to listen, observe, and walk away from unnecessary conflict. Let your actions speak for you. Those who matter will see the truth, and those who don't, well, their opinions won't matter." The young men left Elias's cottage that day with a new perspective. They no longer felt the need to shout or prove their points in every disagreement. Years later, whenever they faced conflict, they would remember the wise man's words and choose silence, understanding its power. And so, Elias's lesson lived on, a message to all who seek wisdom. True strength lies not in the noise of argument, but in the calm of silence. So my friends, always remember that. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Choose peace over pride, silence over shouting, and wisdom over winning.